following is a presentation of the Gear Radio Network.
From wherever we decide studios, broadcasted live on iTunes, Spreaker, and worldwide, this is the Turnbuckle Talk Radio Podcast with your host, the producer, Pat G. The G stands for gangsta. And now kick back and get ready for the eargasms.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the TTRP, another episode here. Pat G, the G stands for gangster, along with Sergeant Fury, the Furious One. I had to because I was watching Mystery Men the other day, so.
Oh, hell yeah. That's one of the top 10 superhero movies of all time that wasn't actually based on a comic. That's probably top 5. But, yes, it's me, the Furious One, Sergeant Fury, back on the mic with Pat G, TTRP. My God.
The amount of wrestling that has happened in the last 2 weeks since we last recorded. Holy mother of God.
It was so much content. We could not record last week.
No, we couldn't.
If we recorded 1 hour, it would have been obsolete like an hour later. Essentially. Basically.
But starting off, let's just talk about the week that was last week for wrestling. You had Monday Night Raw. Yep. AEW, the debut. You had the full 2 hours of NXT on the USA Network. You had the debut of WWE SmackDown on Fox. Of course, you had Impact and their build up to the end of the month for Access.
NWA Pro.
And yeah, NWA, ROH, New Japan, and then you finished off with WWE Hell in the Cell. So much in 1 week's time.
This was the best way that I can describe it is if you were a fan of the Monday Night War, this is what the Monday Night War would have been like on fucking smack and crack. Like, legitimately, you were concerned with Raw and Nitro and SmackDown and Thunder. You got so much content, ears and eyes and every orifice that you can think of this past week. And it was nonstop. Like, every day on my newsfeed was new content, new match clips, new tweets, new ratings scores. And I think one of the most exciting parts about it is it wasn't just from wrestling outlets. This was global news all over. CNN, Wall Street Journal, USA Today, every website that you can think of that is a news source was talking about wrestling last week.
Yeah, CBS, Fox Sports, ESPN, USA Today, everything. There was wrestling everywhere. And then on top of that, you pull into the things that happened on these shows, where with the debut of WWE SmackDown on Fox, you not only saw one of the quickest WWE Championship matches in all time, you saw the debut of Cain Velasquez coming in and showing everyone that Brock Lesnar's human.
Let's start with SmackDown from my viewpoint. And mind you, this is one man's perspective on professional wrestling and one show out of, 8 that took place this past week. Starting off, obviously, with the man, Becky Lynch, and the King, Baron Corbin, and, of course, the most electrifying man in all of entertainment, The Rock, was such a great way to start off the show. And top to bottom SmackDown, a lot of people would argue that, SmackDown was probably at its A game and pretty much took over as the A show. We'll see what happens this week. I loved the set. I loved the vibe. I loved how everything was going. The match with Shane and Kevin Owens, where now Kevin Owens stays and Shane McMahon got fired, quote unquote. But you hit the nail right on the head with the quickest title match. I mean, Diesel versus Bob Backlund in the Garden and this.
Yes.
Are legit the two quickest title matches in our WWE Championship matches to take place. And this one in the modern era was literally Kofi ran, jumped, F5, 1, 2, 3, thanks for the paycheck.
Basically, it was like a whole of 10 seconds. And
you could make it.
And a lot of people didn't like it, but I was fine with it.
So why were you fine with it? Let me ask that question. Why were you fine with this?
I was fine with it because, one, the Kofi title run has been great. I'm not going to deny that. Him running it at WrestleMania and the run and the matches he had, Daniel Bryan, Randy Orton, it's great. But Fox wanted a sports type feel to SmackDown. That had been reported numerous times from the onset of, hey, Fox bought the rights to WWE SmackDown. They're going to have it on the Fox networks. So they wanted to add a sports feel to it. Nothing against Kofi Kingston. While entertaining and talented as hell, he doesn't fulfill that sports aspect that Fox wants. Brock Lesnar does. Now, while Brock Lesnar is probably not going to be on SmackDown every week, it does give you that sport aspect to SmackDown that Fox wanted. They wanted kind of a mixture of sports meets pro wrestling. Lesnar does that because of his background in the NFL, playing football, in the UFC, and of course the WWE. Kofi doesn't.
Okay, now I'm going to play devil's advocate to this. To me, this is your debut on Fox Primetime Friday night that garnered a 3.9 million viewers on Fox. Murdered it. Just murdered the ratings. Okay,
it did.
$1 billion up front for 5 years of content, and your first main event. Jim in American Pie lasted longer with Nadia, okay, than Kofi Kingston did against Brock Lesnar. Now, I'm going to play devil's advocate here. I honestly went into this show thinking this is Brock making Kofi, right? Like, this is going to be huge. This is, even if Kofi loses, this is still going to be one hell of a match because he's had great matches this past year with smaller guys.
Yeah.
Being Brock Lesnar. He's had great matches with small guys in general. AJ Styles, Daniel Bryan, Finn Balor,
Seth Rollins.
Seth Rollins. He's had these great matches. He had a great match with Kofi Kingston in Beast in the East a couple years back.
Yeah.
I honestly thought this was going to be one of those kind of let's show them what we got. And what you got was a gifts length match in order to bring out Cain Velasquez. Now, props, because Cain is the guy that beat Brock Lesnar round 1 knockout, took the UFC title from Brock. And now, obviously, this is leading straight into
Crown Jewel
2, where they are presumably either the main event or one of the main attractions. And you and I discussed this, and myself and another wrestler discussed this as well. I think they blew it. I think they blew it with at least the aspect of Brock versus Kane. And the reason why is Brock versus Kane I could see as a marquee WrestleMania match. Hands down. I know Cain Velasquez has wrestled in Mexico, and he's doing some luchador shit at being, 37 years old, 6'1", and built like a fucking tank. He may not be muscular, but he's still a big dude.
Yeah.
Doing the shit he's doing, which could be an awesome dichotomy versus Brock Lesnar, who's just Suplex City, F5, F5, stomp punch. But I think they blew it on making it a good exhibition for their main event roster. I think that they blew it by blowing the WrestleMania main event in Saudi Arabia. And my thoughts and feelings on Saudi Arabia, I'm very clear about the Saudis and the Saudi government and the Saudi royal family. Very clear on how I feel about them. And to me, you just wasted an amazing pay-per-view match for WrestleMania that could have been built over 6 months for a quick rating that is similar to what Nitro would have done in, say, 98, 99.
You know what? I could see that now because, like I said, Fox wants like sports-based programming. It mixed with the wrestling. Not going to deny that, but I
man's billions for it.
Yeah, I see the thing because if you fast forward of 3 days later, this past Monday night for Monday Night Raw, which has continued all this wrestling, and even to Sunday, it was that Friday night. You continue later on that night when you had the interaction between Braun Strowman and Tyson Fury, which led to this past Monday as well.
Yep.
It's the thing of, okay, Fox wants the mixture of sports and wrestling, but at the end of the day, these big marquee matchups, and once that whole Braun Strowman Tyson Fury thing went down, a lot of people were straight out calling it a bargain store Tyson versus Austin or Big Show Floyd Mayweather.
Which, one can argue that is absolutely true. And as a wrestling fan, okay, all right, here is my take on it as a fan. Okay. I know the history of Brock Lesnar and Cain Velasquez.
Yes.
Okay. As someone who followed Brock's Octagon career, I know that there are only a few guys who ever really did damage to Brock Lesnar. Obviously Frank Mir.
Yep.
First fight, but then again, Brock at UFC 100 fucking smashed his face in and, gave us an entertaining promo. So, hey, win for Brock. And Cain Velasquez comes to mind because he's the dude that busted Brock's face up. Like, just bloodied him. First round knockout. New UFC champion. So I knew Cain Velasquez, and the fact that as a pro wrestling fan, I know he's already been at the Performance Center, and I know he's training, and I know he's been in Mexico. But Tyson Fury comes out of nowhere. Tyson Fury, to me, is an attraction. And the way that I look at it is Braun Strowman a year and a half ago. Okay, a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, almost. I was in the Barclays at SummerSlam when it was the four-way between Brock, Roman, Samoa Joe, and Braun Strowman. Braun Strowman could have walked out the champion that night, and that crowd would have exploded like it was Austin winning the title for the first time. I think that they put Braun Strowman in predicaments story-wise that at times have made him look moderately silly and at other times have made him look freaking great. This time, I'm not sure if this is the story that's going to put him over, because the thought that I had is the same one where Floyd Money Mayweather faced Big Show at WrestleMania 24. If Floyd Money Mayweather loses, he loses in a pro wrestling match, which everyone is like, oh, it's fake. It's not fake. It hurts the fuck. But if he beats your guy, does he legitimize Braun Strowman in the same way that Mayweather even made Big Show a bigger attraction?
That's true. And honestly, earlier today I was talking to Thomas Brewington because we got baseball training and stuff, and I was talking to him about it, and he even said it. He's like, the ceiling is Big Show, Mayweather, and your floor is Butterbean Bart Gunn.
Yeah. That's the best analogy I can give. And while Tyson Fury is a big motherfucker, like, you put him face to face with Braun Strowman, and they're looking at each other in the eye.
Oh,
you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
He might not be chiseled and whatnot. To me, I see what they're doing where they would like to make, like Survivor Series is coming up in a month. Let's make that an attraction match. Like, that would be great. That's good shit. But I think another reason that they're doing this is because if you don't think Cain Velasquez could have been bought by Tony Khan and AEW for a significant amount of money,
yeah,
you're absolutely stoned out of your mind that wouldn't have been a thought process. But I see where the attraction of going to this big show, no reference to Paul White, is where guys want to be. Guys want to be in the WWE. Guys want to be seen on it. To me, I think both storylines. I'd like to at least see Tyson Fury versus Braun Strowman paid off in a good way versus being done for a bunch of fucking pompous twats in the deserts of Saudi Arabia.
Yeah. And that, I definitely agree with you because, like, okay, cool, Crown Jewel, you're doing the Team Hogan versus Team Flair thing, awesome, whatever. But, like, to have these two marquee matches, and it's been come out that they're going to make the announcements considering these four gentlemen we're talking about, Brock, Kane, Fury, and Strowman, on Friday. That was my concern. I'm like, if you guys are going to do these matches at Crown Jewel, that's dumb. Because, one, Crown Jewel, and while, yes, you can watch Crown Jewel pretty much at any point in time after they show it, Crown Jewel's on a Friday afternoon at 1 p.m. when a lot of people are at work.
Yeah, correction. Halloween at 1 p.m.
Oh, yeah.
It's on a Thursday. It's not even on a fucking Friday. It's on a Thursday.
Okay, I thought Halloween was on Friday for some reason.
It's not, because I have a race on November 2nd. So I've got a kid, so I kind of got to have the trick-or-treating game down. But you're absolutely right. And, I mean, once again, so the Saudis paid a lot of money in order to have these shows. But I feel like that's one match we could have waited for. I mean,
yeah.
The Saudis got Undertaker versus Goldberg for better or worse. They've had Randy Orton versus Triple H, John Cena versus Triple H, maybe for the last time ever. They've had some good matches.
They got the hometown guy, Mansoor, won the Battle Royal.
Yeah, exactly. And the best in the world, Shane McMahon gimmick. But it's like, to me, I feel like they're just trying too hard with this in order to compete with AEW because, let's look at another aspect of this past week in wrestling. AEW did it. They did it.
Yeah.
Whether people want to admit it or not, smart marks or whatever. Hey, AEW did it. They had a good show. They're really good premiere.
They did. They had a very good premiere, and this was, of course, going up against NXT, which Triple H and NXT rolled out a takeover style show.
Jesus Christ. Okay, let's talk about NXT first, because you and I were going to record last Wednesday.
We were
like, let's hold off on this. So I'm like, okay, not a problem. First match out for both shows are legit main event matches. You had, let's talk about NXT. You had the King of Bros, Matt Riddle, versus Adam Cole, baby, for the NXT Championship live.
Yep.
Your first match live. That's insane. And add to that, you literally, I think you, when you sent me the message, you knew that on the other end of that line, there was a giddy Sergeant Fury being like, oh my God, Finn Balor. Like, oh my God, they brought Finn Balor back to NXT.
Oh, yeah.
That's your first half hour of your head-to-head.
Yep.
The guns were out, like you said. This was a takeover level performance by all of the wrestlers on NXT.
Yeah, and this is the thing. It was one of the things of, all right, you know what? Ratings are ratings and whatnot, but who's gonna pull out the bigger thing? And that first half hour, I would give to NXT because Riddle and Cole had an amazing match, and then you get the surprise return of Finn Balor to NXT.
Yes,
but then on the flip side, AEW had Pac versus Hangman Adam Page.
Oh, God. Let's talk about that match for 5 seconds. Okay, longer than 5 seconds. Who are we fucking lying? God damn. If you would have told me Neville or Pac would be against the competition at that level, like Hangman Page just keeps improving and showing his stock, and Pac gave him one hell of a performance. Like, those two guys, tip of the hat to both of them, because you literally had a phenomenal main event level match in that match.
Oh, absolutely. And this was the thing. You also had, and to start off with AEW, because, like we said, NXT brought out the NXT title of Finn Balor. Starting off with AEW, you had Cody Rhodes facing Sammy Guevara.
And in a very competitive match, which is something that they talked about when they were putting AEW together, and we were starting to hear some stuff. Obviously, being the elite, continues this, the storylines when the cameras aren't rolling, so to speak. And one of the things is that Cody Rhodes had said that victories matter. So had Sammy pinned Cody Rhodes may not have been the next in line to face the Alpha Chris Jericho. And to me, that was kind of an exciting thought. Like, because we've all kind of over time accepted the fact that wins and losses don't matter in pro wrestling. But with this, it seems, at least with AEW, like they really are putting an emphasis. Like, if the number one contender gets pinned by another guy on a televised show, that kind of gives that guy some bragging rights. Like, if I can beat the number one contender, I can beat that motherfucker with the belt.
Absolutely. And not to sidetrack a little bit, one small thing that AEW does that I absolutely love is when they do the introductions and they show who's coming out, they have the win-loss record next to their name. Yes.
And so far, Cody is undefeated leading up to his match against Chris Jericho.
Yep. In a month. Oh,
I mean, and the thing that I like about that is you're going to have two undefeated guys going against each other for the title, in theory, because Jericho's undefeated.
Yep.
He's beaten Kenny, he's beaten Hangman. man. The 6-man main event last week, which I'm sure we'll get to in a little bit. You look at this and it's like they're building it very well. And let's talk about the production level, because I think that's something that we haven't talked about yet.
Oh, no, not at all.
Okay. We've seen a taste of what AEW was going to do with Double or Nothing, and then the pay-per-views that they've had on Bleacher Report. But this was our first chance to see, okay, what are you presenting on network television? And the funny part about this is that it reminded me in aspects of Nitro. It reminded me in certain ways of original run Raw when they started going into the larger venues in 95, 96. And really, it also was something new, which is kind of weird because it was new, but it was familiar. I knew some of the guys and women on the roster. Some of them I didn't. But yet I felt like I knew the action going into this premiere, which is different than how I felt when I went, which is actually not different, which is similar to how I felt when I watched the first Nitro, where it's like, I know who Hulk Hogan is, I know who Big Bubba is, I know who Flair is, I know who Sting is, but I don't know who who Jushin Thunder Liger is, and I don't really remember Brian Pillman much. Who are these guys?
Where when that first Nitro happened, granted I was that 90, that was 95?
Yes.
So I was probably like 6th, 7th grade. I knew who Brian Pillman was because I was a Hollywood Blondes fan. So it was like I knew who Pillman was, but like yourself, I didn't know who Liger was because I hadn't discovered Japanese wrestling outside of the few people that I knew that had been in WWE, that had been WWE or WWF at that time, or WCW.
Yeah. So it was a very similar feel to that. And the cool part about it was the production value was very well done. Very good. The cutting of the shows, the production of the show, very cool. I will give them credit. Kenny Omega, and let's get to the Kenny Moxley segment.
Yep.
Kenny Omega to me finally came off like, oh my God, this dude can be more than just an international attraction. This dude could be a household name based on the facial expressions on the cage, which we've all seen in New Japan and his other matches and stuff. But this was the first time seeing it on network television, and there's the image of Moxley behind him, and it eventually got turned into a meme.
Yep.
Like Kenny kind of looking clueless at the crowd, and the crowd was losing their shit trying to tell Kenny to turn around. And here's Moxley, who people recognize. They're getting into it, and then there's a suplex onto a glass coffee table on network television. It's like, all right, bitches, we are PG-14 or TV-14.
Yep. Not to mention that happened during the main event, which after that happened, you had the 3-on-2 aspect that the Young Bucks were left by themselves facing Jericho and LAX. And then it broke down, and out comes Cody, out comes Sammy Guevara, out comes that, and then you get the big shock of Jake Hager showing up and powerbombing Dustin Rhodes through the little ring bell table.
And to see, formerly known as Jack Swagger, but to see Jack show up, I know that there are some people who may or may not have been fans of his run in WWE as Swagger's run. Okay. He's done very well in mixed martial arts. He's done very well on some of the smaller televised promotions. This new faction that they're forming, which, is going to be taking over Boston at the time of this recording, Yes, I think that this is a chance for him to reinvent himself, maybe show his real personality and not be the American. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I think to see his real personality come out, he looked great. He got a pop. It was something that fans were excited to see, and it was once again that shock of anything can happen. Countering that, on the competition on NXT, we had another return, countering the Jack return.
Yep. And the thing is also with NXT, you had of course Shayna Baszler retaining the women's title against Candice LeRae.
Yep.
And then you had the crazy ending of that show,
which gave us fans something that we kind of been chomping at the bit about.
Yep.
Because, I hate to see wrestlers get hurt. I hate to see performers get hurt. I know what it's like. You have a hot story going on, and then all of a sudden, you rupture, you tear a ligament, you rupture a muscle, you dislocate a joint, and you're out, and you're sitting on the sidelines while your friends are going off and doing their stuff. It's a shit feeling. And for my money, for NXT to debut on USA Network and not have Tommaso Ciampa on USA anytime soon would be a fucking crime. And luckily that crime was averted because Ciampa came back and was looking for Goldie, not even looking at Adam Cole. I don't think he really even acknowledged that motherfucker on the stage.
No, he didn't. He straight out almost 90% of the walkout, he was staring at the NXT championship. It wasn't until the very end that he raised his head and were like eye to eye with Adam Cole.
And to me, that speaks volumes where it doesn't matter about the man holding the title in his opinion. What matters is the title.
Yep.
And, he had such a great run with the NXT championship. I mean, him and Gargano's feud was one of the best pieces of storytelling I've seen in recent years. And the best part about it was it was done, quote, end quote, in developmental, let alone the fact that these guys carried the company. And if you want to look at it, let's look at the three men that we have kind of being billed in this triangle for the championship. You have the longest reigning NXT champion and the first ever Universal champion, two-time Intercontinental champion being I reluctantly want to call him the Demon King, but Finn Balor.
Yep.
Okay, I'm not going to call him Demon King right just yet. You have the guy who over the last couple years has really been the top heel, one of the top two heels in wrestling. Like, I'm sorry, his entrance against Gargano where he came out with no music,
no nothing.
The music was the crowd screaming, "Fuck you, Ciampa."
Yep.
That was it. The crowd sang his theme song last night, and it was not fucking pretty. And the best part about it is all he had to do was walk out because fans hated him. And yet we also gained respect for him and love for him again. And now that he's back, it's like, okay, I don't really want to boo him. I don't really want to cheer him. I just want to see him kick the fucking shit out of Adam Cole. And speaking of Adam Cole, he's the first head of this Hydra that is the Undisputed Era, who currently holds every piece of gold, minus the Women's Championship, on the NXT roster.
Absolutely. And side note, I'm sitting here I have the TV on mute, and I'm watching AEW because I was really interested in this tag team tournament. And Private Party just beat the Young Bucks to advance.
Wow.
that was crazy. Like the match, like I'm glancing up every so often. The match was amazing. But yeah, Private Party gets the upset.
You know, and this is one of the, and let's talk about that for 5 seconds, because that's one of the things that people may have thought, oh, well, you know, they run the company, so they're going to have all the championships and they're going to have all the glory on themselves. It's like, you know, Cody right now has an undefeated streak, sure, but that doesn't necessarily mean he's going to win the title. And the Bucks have gotten their asses kicked now 2 weeks in a row on AEW television, okay? And Kenny Omega got put through a glass table. Not exactly the greatest way to start your week off.
No, not at all. And the thing is the way Private Party won is Young Bucks had it set up for the Meltzer driver, and the one guy from Private Party grabbed Nick and small package roll up 1, 2, 3.
Oh, small package. Oh, that's classic. That's classic.
And it was a variation of the small package roll up. Like Matt had him set for like the tombstone.
Yep.
And he just kind of rolled it in sunset flip roll up type deal.
That's so good. That's fucking class. You don't need to use a finishing move in order to fucking pin someone. There you go.
Yep.
And you know, we're throwing praise at everyone, but it wouldn't be a week of wrestling without shitting the bed.
Oh,
at least once.
Yes. But we're gonna get into that in the next segment, because the week that everyone had, Raw was good. AEW was great. NXT was great. SmackDown was great. Everybody else had good stuff going on. And then Sunday night happened. And we're going to get into that in the next segment after the break. And our sponsors. Keep it locked. TTRP, Patchy, Fury, we'll be back. Ladies and gentlemen, it is Pat G from the Turnbuckle Talk Radio podcast. And no, we're not talking pro wrestling today, but we are talking sports hoodies, NFL, NBA, MLB, NHL, soccer, and much more. And this is brought to you by houseofhoodies.com, a new sponsor here at the TTRP. You can visit thehouseofhoodies.com and pick up your favorite team's merchandise. They have current players, former players, or you can customize your own hoodie, whether it be the NBA, NHL, MLB, and the NFL. After you're done shopping, use the promo code TTR Podcast and you will get 15% off your order. That's TTR Podcast for 15% off at thehouseofhoodies.com. We're back here on the TTRP, and as we alluded at the end of segment 1, we are about to finish the great week of wrestling with an absolute pile of dog crap. Now, while Hell in the Cell was not completely dog crap, there was good matches.
Yeah.
It was ruined by one thing. And Becky Lynch and Sasha had an amazing match. They tore it down. And this is the thing, is over the past few years, the Cell has been diminished by various things. And last night I saw Mick Foley as he started his 20th anniversary of Have a Nice Day tour here in Buffalo at Helium Comedy Club. Great show. Mick Foley came out and his first line was what we're going to talk about later. But he also alluded to over the past few years, the Hell in the Cell kind of has lost its luster to a degree. And I feel like Becky Lynch and Sasha used the Cell to the best of their advantages with some of the spots that they ran.
Oh my fucking God. Let's just talk about that opening match. Okay. Becky Becky Lynch went out there with Sasha Banks. And, okay, a few years ago, the women ended Hell in a Cell in a main event that people were like, kind of about. Like, they didn't feel like it delivered. This delivered.
Oh, absolutely.
This delivered. My God. Let's talk about some of the how their freaking heads weren't smashed in. Beautiful shit. They used the cell as a weapon. The ominous red cell as a weapon.
Absolutely. The thing that was great was that spot in the corner where they had the chair propped up with the kendo sticks, and Becky hit that running drop kick, and I'm like, yo. And then, not to mention the spot where Sasha had, like, kind of stuck the chair inside the cage, and it hung there. And they went away from it for a while, and you forgot it was there until Sasha, like, reversed the Irish whip, and Becky hit that chair. You're like, oh, crap, wait. You remembered that chair was placed there.
Which is beautiful storytelling, because that goes back to old school hardcore matches. See, there's this era about hardcore where it's just kendo sticks and trash cans for the sake of kendo sticks and trash cans. Nah, you set those two chairs up, and then you go and you fight over here in this corner, and maybe you throw your opponent over here, and then, oh my God, there's going to be a move, and then, nope, you get powerbombed through the fucking chairs, or through the fucking tables. It's beautiful storytelling, because it's glitz, it's, oh, look at the shiny thing, smack, you get fucking hit in the face with a chair. And it was beautiful. And the women told one hell of a Hell in a Cell story.
Oh, and absolutely. And not to mention, since Sasha Banks has come back, the steel chair has kind of been her signature. And she used it, and it eventually led to her downfall. She threw a bunch of chairs in the ring. Becky hit that back exploder off the top rope into the disarmor, and it was over.
And it's cool that she's making that her thing. And more importantly than that, it's another solid victory for Becky Lynch, really solidifying this title run as being the man.
Oh, absolutely. Abso-frickin-lutely. And this is the thing is, it's now to the point of, yes, we have the draft coming up, as we alluded to.
Yep.
Now it's going to, if Becky remains on Raw, and they don't flip them, which I highly doubt that they will, Becky's going to get new challengers, because you're probably guaranteed some of the women from SmackDown are going to be flipped over.
Absolutely. I'd like to see her and Mella go at it. As weird as that sounds, like, I do like Carmella.
Oh, yeah.
We have new women's tag team champions with Asuka.
Yep.
And Kairi Sane. And Asuka can always go at it again.
And that's the thing. That's after this past Monday night the past Monday night or whatever, where Becky got hit with the mist.
Yep.
And she called out Asuka, and honestly, that I'd be cool with that. It's like, because she referenced it to Asuka beat her back in January at the Royal Rumble. So it's like,
they had one hell of a feud.
And then on top of it, say you pull the trigger and Asuka beats Becky again, and now Asuka's got the Raw Women's title, and she's one half of the women's tag team champions,
which would ignite Asuka's flame again, because
yes,
yep, huge Asuka fan,
because especially with the fact she's using the mist, which is a throwback to her days in Japan as Kana.
Yes, and one of the things that I love is, once again, it goes back to it's new, but it's familiar. I feel like I'm pitching, some fucking weird Coke 2 product here.
Yep.
One thing that I can say is that I would love to see these two women at WrestleMania, because they already proved it back in January that they can have a great match at a major pay-per-view.
Oh, absolutely.
Really put Becky on the map as, okay, well, Becky just, her arm is jacked up, her leg is jacked up, but she's going to go into the Royal Rumble match anyway and win it. Really the saddest part about that entire run was we didn't get an Asuka singles match with her going in as champion at WrestleMania.
No.
Obviously, things change. But that doesn't mean that Asuka isn't still one hell of a performer, and she's connecting more with the crowd than she ever did, especially as part of the Kabuki Warriors,
yep.
Kairi Sane, who fans love. And you're right. Becky just took off, and then another woman who added another, diamond to her collection. Let's talk about Charlotte.
Yep.
I mean, you can't talk about Hell in a Cell without mentioning Charlotte Flair, 10-time women's champion.
Yep, 10 times women's champion. And this is the thing, is when she beat Bayley and got the 10th one, I was like, you know what? All right, cool. I'm okay with this. Because Charlotte, for the longest time, has kind of been the Rock when they've needed somebody to stand, to hold the fort down.
Exactly.
And with the draft coming up, nothing against Bayley. Bayley's character development over the last few weeks has been nothing short of great. But she's not a strong enough person to make it through the draft and hold the division down.
No, and also you have to think that going into this new era, if you will, this Fox and USA era, where we have a new war, I can understand where both networks want champions that they can put on a marquee and say, this is who you're going to see on our show.
Yep.
And it's kind of hard to look at SmackDown, especially after what happened on Friday, and not say, okay, that's Brock Lesnar, that's Charlotte Flair. That's former UFC heavyweight champion. That's the daughter of the greatest heavyweight champion of all time.
Yep.
Arguably in the Nature Boy Ric Flair, someone who everyone recognizes.
Yep.
2 claps and a Ric Flair. Woo! And then of course on the flip side you have Becky 2 belts, who is repping on Raw, and
and of course Seth Rollins.
Which we'll get to.
Yeah.
I needed to bring this up on tonight's podcast. Okay, I needed to bring something up, and I'm really going to try and jar your memory banks here, Padgett.
All right.
In 1999, on WCW television, there was this storyline where Kevin Nash his limo was hit by a mysterious black Humvee. Okay. And the entire gimmick was we were trying to figure out who was driving the Humvee.
Yeah.
Who was trying to take out Kevin Nash. And they even made it so that Sting was a potential, because Sting emerged from a black Humvee to attack the Steiners. Ooh. The worst part about this whole thing was, even in 2000, the black Humvee would show up and just different people would get out of it and attack someone else, but they never had an answer of who attacked Kevin Nash.
Nope.
Black Humvee. Who was responsible for this? Yeah, I'm saying the storyline now, and you're literally like, oh my God, Dan remembers that? Of course Dan remembers it, because it had Sting involved with it. Now, fast forward 2 decades later, the same guy who came up with that storyline of the black Humvee has Roman Reigns, another tall, dark-haired face, getting mysteriously attacked. Like, not even mysteriously attacked, just this random stuff happens.
Yep.
Where, like, sets are falling on him, and vehicles are almost hitting him, and fork trucks are almost, penetrating his legs. And all of this stuff is going on, and you're wondering, who is behind all this? Well, guess what? Eric Bischoff, you did it. You managed to conclude a story that you started 20 years ago. It just happened to take place in a different company, on a different show, on a different network's pay-per-view. My God. The fact that I was sitting here being like, if they don't tell us who's been attacking Roman Reigns, and they just let this become another Black Humvee story, I'm going to be so pissed. But they did. And they did it in a great way at Hell in a Cell because you had a really great tag team match take place between, Roman Reigns and Daniel Bryan as his tag team partner and the Bludgeon Brothers.
Yep. Which
Harper and Rowan were phenomenal that night.
Which made me laugh because Eric Rowan and Luke Harper got their first names back, but Mustafa Ali lost his.
Oh, hey, come on. We can't all win. The internet doesn't give us victories every day.
Yeah, I know. Like, everybody was happy that Harper and Rowan had got their first names back, and then Ali comes out and it was like, no Mustafa, just Ali. And I'm like, and what's funny is nothing against the Ali Randy Orton match was really good.
Yep.
But all in my head, the only thing I could think about in part of my brain is, he's going by Ali. I swear to God, if he doesn't use the Prince Ali theme at some point, I swear to God.
And this is why we do this podcast, so that we can eventually wrap wrestling into Disney movies.
Yes. Because he's coming out to his song, and I see Ali on the thing, and I was like, all I'm doing is like, Prince Ali. I'm like, no, we are not wrapping Disney into wrestling.
Just, you flip your table. You're like, there's going to be no of that mentioned on this. Never. Well, technically, if you want to look at it from a certain perspective, Disney owns Fox. WWE is on Fox TV.
Yep.
Technically, that could make him a Disney prince.
That's true. That's technically true.
Just throwing that out there. Throwing that out there, kids. It all comes back to Mickey Mouse. But you're right. That was another great match. All in all, the pay-per-view was great.
It was solid. It was. And then the WWE Universal Championship match in Hell in a Cell. Seth Rollins in all black gear, mind you, which was kind of cool, versus The Fiend, Bray Wyatt. Now the entrance, the Bray Wyatt Fiend entrance, amazing with the lantern and everything.
As always. And then the bell rang, and I was kind of like, I was hoping good things. I really, really was. And they did a bunch of stuff, and then Seth Rollins just lost his shit and hit stomp after stomp after stomp after stomp after stomp, like Brock Lesnar hit German suplexes. Fair analogy.
And instead of people selling the German suplexes that they sell from Brock Lesnar when Lesnar takes people to Suplex City, the Fiend, being the character that he is, continues to get up and Rollins does more. And I'm watching it and I'm going, what in the bloody hell is going on?
But let's add to this, okay? So that we're not taking away from the spectacle that is Curb Stomp City, or Curb Stomp Avenue, whatever.
Curb Stomp Avenue.
Curb Stomp Avenue. Okay. The fans are cheering every single time that like bad people, like unbelievably crazy, rabid monsters in the crowd.
Yes.
All right. They are losing their shit because let's look at the Bray Wyatt Fiend character for a second, shall we? Let's analyze him.
Oh.
Essentially, he's a walking horror character. He's a walking horror movie at this point. So, to me, him taking a curb stomp and kicking out at one, the fans were losing their shit because, okay, he is a throwback, and we've talked about this on previous podcasts, to your Mankind's, your Undertakers, your Kane, K-A.
Papa Shango.
Your Papa Shangos. He is a throwback to that, where you can hit him with a friggin' bus. And just like Jason Voorhees, he's going to pop back up. That was what I thought of him as. I thought of him as a clown version of Jason Voorhees at this point. Some people might have thought it was overkill to do this, but it's like shooting Jason. It's like you're going to unload an Uzi, and then you're going to unload a shotgun, and then you're going to unload an M60, and then you're going to whip out a Gatling gun, and Jason is going to take the shots, lay down, pop up at one.
Yep. And that's essentially what was happening. And the crowd was losing their shit. And every time Rollins hit a curb stomp or hit a super kick or whatever, the crowd turned on him so bad.
The crowd turned on Seth Rollins because it's not that they this is my opinion. I don't believe it's because they dislike Seth Rollins and his work.
Yep.
I believe that it is because they love this Fiend character so damn much because it's something so different and it's something so brutal, and the way that they have built him, it was almost like you have to launch this rocket ship now. Like, you have to launch it. You have to give him this belt. We want this guy as our representative as WWE fans. Like, Wowie was being chanted all damn night. Like,
yes,
it was huge.
Yes, it was. And then you get to Seth Rollins, and you continue on, and there's a giant Gallagher mallet that comes out and everything. And
that was the mallet that killed Rambling Rabbit. Let's show some respect.
Yes, the mallet that killed Rambling Rabbit. And and Seth Rollins hits a curb stomp on that. And Seth Rollins brings in chairs and ladders and a toolbox and just buries the Fiend underneath it. And then finally, it's like Rollins has no what else to do, and he grabs a sledgehammer. And the ref's like, no, don't do this. What are you doing? Da, 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 da. And Seth Rollins, like a railroad worker, swinging the mallet down to hit the pin into the ground, swings it on top to hit the toolbox, into the chair, into the ladder, into the Fiend, and the ref rings the bell. And at that point, the crowd was like, essentially like, what in the fuck just happened?
Way to use the F-bomb. You never do it. You allow me to swear. That's kind of polite of you. I'll give you this one F-bomb. Yeah. Not only did the audience lose their collective shits in one moment, but they weren't the only ones who lost their collective shit.
Oh, not at all. Not
because you had the viewing party with X-Pac, and X-Pac lost his shit. X-Pac even acknowledged, this might be the last time they have me on this, but how are you going to end a Hell in a Cell in a DQ?
Yep.
Okay. Bubba Ray went on Twitter and his podcast and said that you can't put the heat on the ref for this one. Like, referees can't take heat like this. This call was stupid. It just wasn't good. It wasn't a good call.
No, it was not. And as I alluded to earlier, when Mick Foley came out last night, his first thing that he said to the crowd before he did the cheap pop was, I'd like to reiterate, there's no DQ in a Hell in the Cell.
Exactly. I mean, this is the man who obviously did it. And let's talk about the final product, the final finish. Okay, before we get into the crowd reaction and everything.
Yes.
Okay, so they raise the cell up.
Yep.
Medical EMTs come in. Mind you, this is the Fiend, a dude who just took like 25 curb stomps, all this shit. This is supposed to be a diabolical clown in the same vein as Pennywise and the Joker and Violent J from the Insane Clown Posse. Like, this is supposed to be like the most maniacal creature from the Firefly Funhouse, right?
Yep.
Okay. They're going to cart him the fuck out on a stretcher like a common wrestler.
Yep.
Okay. And then they have all these EMTs and refs and WWE officials swarm the ring, and they're going to check on the Fiend, and oh my God, he's not moving. And then they move the stuff off him, and Seth Rollins goes over, and just like Jason Voorhees or Michael Myers or insert slasher in a horror movie here, all of a sudden the demon pops up. No, not the demon. The Fiend pops up and gives the mandible claw and throws Seth Rollins over the top. And the crowd starts chanting, restart the match. An entire arena of people start chanting, restart the match.
Yep.
And they end it with Seth Rollins taking his sister Abigail to the concrete
and
mandible claw where he is spitting out blood.
Yep. While they're doing the sounds and the black and the all in dark.
Yeah. And the crowd is still chanting, restart the match. And then they end the pay-per-view to a sea of boos.
Yep. And then the footage that was released on Twitter by various members of the wrestling news community, chants were AEW, refund, boos. Just, it was not a good look. And then, about 45 minutes, maybe an hour and a half after everything had been done and settled and whatnot, WWE released the statement that it was not a disqualification, it was a ref stoppage.
Okay. About that. All right. I am going to, because in preparation for this, I am going to just list off a bunch of stuff that has happened in Hell in a Cell matches over the years that did not lead to ref stoppage. Limited, but not exclusively, these things. A flaming barbed wire wrap 2x4 to Triple H's forehead. Mick Foley falling through the cell, not once, but twice. Mick Foley getting tossed off of the cell, twice. Rikishi getting chokeslammed onto a truck bed. Kevin Owens moving as Shane McMahon flies through the air and lands through a table. Shawn Michaels falling off the top of the cell through a table. Tombstone pile drivers on top of the cell. A choke slam by Undertaker to Edge through the ring where there was fire. Okay? That is just a couple. Oh, and thumbtacks.
Yep.
Thousands and thousands of thumbtacks. Okay, that was just a... Oh, Batista getting hung by Lawler's chain. That is just a couple of things that have taken place in Hell in a Cell over the years that did not result in a referee stoppage.
This is true. And like I said, last night Mick Foley put on a great show. And he talked about the Hell in the Cell match that he had with Triple H at MSG in the Royal Rumble. And thousands of thumbtacks where he took a pedigree and he shut his eyes as tight as he could. And he took the pedigree as perfect as anyone potentially could. And he even made light of the fact of a couple of years ago when he was a special referee with Roman Reigns and Braun Strowman, and how he had to act like he did not count Roman Reigns' shoulders down for the 3 count. It's just the thing of like as you said, your list of things. It's like all these things have happened, and the referee did not stop the match.
No, in fact, Mick Foley was legit knocked out in the match.
Yep.
And he went on for like 15 more minutes. Okay, you have to assume, and this might be continuity error, this might be whatever. You can't constantly assume that the audience is dumb. And in fact,
well,
them assuming that the audience wouldn't care as long as it was a cool setup if you didn't have a good way for the Fiend to leave strong, and if you didn't have a way to keep the belt on Rollins without him pinning the Fiend,
Yep.
you shouldn't have made the fucking match.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And to reference something that RJ said he said last night, I can't remember the exact terminology of it. He's like, kayfabe is dead. Kayfabe, for him, he's like, kayfabe died two weeks ago when he, 8-year-old boy, he was at a show, and 8-year-old boy asked him why they keep making RJ lose. And he alluded to wrestling is essentially guys saying, hey, we're going to do something that looks fake, or that is fake, but we're going to make it look fake or whatever to the extent. Like, and something that Alex said. Can't remember the exact wording he put it. But it's like, yeah, we're going to do moves to make them look fake, although we're doing exactly what we're showing you that we're doing. So essentially, like the punch to the face. Yeah, we're going to make look like I'm punching someone in the face, but it's not going to be an actual punch in the face, even though it's a punch in the face.
Yeah. And to me, okay, there was no faking that shit that they did. Yes, it was pretty brutal. Well, the end of that would have been a cool end to pin, to pin the Fiend. Okay?
Yes.
I would have bought that. If Seth Rollins would have pinned him, I would have been like, fuck, okay.
Yeah, I completely agree. Like when I saw him do like bring out the toolbox and he's just smashing it and tools are flying, and I'm like, you know what? If Seth Rollins just pins him right now and that's it, I'm like, I'm okay with this.
Yeah.
Because Seth Rollins went to the deepest, darkest place he possibly could in his mind to win this match, to quote unquote survive and whatever, as he said in the promo. I'm like, all right, I can live with that. But when they did the sledgehammer refereeing the bell thing, I was kind of like, huh? Because, and people are like, oh yeah, you give the Fiend character even more depth and whatnot.
Okay, so and I've talked about it with a couple of other people. Their thoughts on the way the thing ended. For me, I just wouldn't have had it. I would have found a different opponent for Seth Rollins.
Yeah.
Because here's the other thing is right now, Seth Rollins is one of 5 members on Team Hogan going over to Saudi Arabia at the end of the month.
Yep.
So clearly, you had other plans for him following that. The Fiend isn't going to go to Saudi Arabia and be on a 5-man team. That's asinine.
Yep.
So, in my guesstimation, and we've talked about this, if they were going to pull the trigger on the Fiend thing, okay, do it now and let him keep the belt until WrestleMania.
Yep.
And we've obviously,
we spent a whole segment on it.
Yeah, we spent an entire segment talking about how great this character was. Does it ruin the Fiend? Not exactly, because he kept looking like a maniac and kept getting up just like a horror movie. I think what this does, though, is it makes Seth Rollins look a little tarnished on this run, that he could beat Brock Lesnar with curb stomps and all that stuff.
Yep.
But Bray Wyatt, who took curb stomp after curb stomp after curb stomp after curb stomp and all this stuff, you couldn't beat him, but yet he's not the champion. Yep.
That's a legitimate point that a lot of people on Twitter made. They're like, Seth Rollins beat Brock Lesnar with 4 curb stomps in a row. He hit like 20 of them on the Fiend and couldn't win the match.
Not only couldn't win the match, he couldn't win the match with a sledgehammer, a toolbox, a chair, and a ladder.
Yep.
All at once. Not separately.
All at the same time. Which I understand. I understand the idea of what Seth Rollins was doing. Like he was thrive and survive, whatever, and whatnot. But as you stated, with so many things that have happened in the cell, the fact that the ref rang the bell, it's like he could have just pinned him and it would have been done.
And an interesting fact that was brought up, I was reading online that the match between Seth Rollins and Bray Wyatt, Fiend, wasn't even mentioned until the third hour of Raw on Monday night.
No, it wasn't.
Which, we've talked about how does this Fiend character fit within the lexicon of WWE and their new sponsors and new homes, and how a character like the Fiend makes sponsors nervous. It makes advertisers nervous because it's an evil clown coming out with his own severed head as a lantern.
Especially with the fact that it's been there's been a couple of reports saying that a Fox representative said they want the Fiend on SmackDown. And I'm like, I don't know about that.
With Fox we don't know where Fox is going. That's the other thing.
Yeah.
We don't know where Fox is going. The Fox network historically has pushed the envelope with their programming anyway. Everything from its origins with Married with Children and The Simpsons to, shows
American Horror Story.
American Horror Story, all the way up to, anything that Seth MacFarlane has done on that network.
Yeah.
They're not afraid to push the envelope as far as content. They're not afraid to push sexuality. They're not afraid to push extreme violence because it's Fox. Fox is kind of home. It was the alternate to the big three, NBC, ABC, and CBS. To me, though, Bray Wyatt's character is everything but family friendly, even though we live in an era where two of the top movies of the year featured murderous clowns. Yes.
Which what was funny is on Twitter the other day, somebody had posted the picture of what this year's Halloween is going to look like, and it was pictures of Harley Quinn, Joker from the movie, Pennywise, and The Fiend.
Yeah, and dude, he's selling merch left and right. And I could understand where Fox executives would be like, we want our hands on that. That is weird. And to me, by all means, I think the Bray Wyatt package, the whole package with the Firefly Funhouse and Happy Bray Wyatt. I mean, the media tour that Bray Wyatt was doing at news outlets in California on last week leading up to Hell in a Cell, where he's Bray Wyatt, your friend from the Firefly Funhouse, and he was legitimately creeping out newscasters. Like, when he gets into that character, it's obviously something dark and it's something amazing. Both characters, the Fiend and Bray. I would hate to see this character fall by the wayside because it didn't pan out in one pay-per-view.
Oh, absolutely. Well, and that's the thing. Like, some people on Twitter was like, Vince McMahon, super hot act. Let's hotshot him into a title match, into a Hell in the Cell, and tried to make like the similarities between a couple of years ago with Ryback versus Punk, where it's like you booked yourself into a corner. There's nowhere with the Hell in the Cell. And I'm like, there's always somewhere to go in the Hell in the Cell. They've had hundreds of Hell in the Cell matches over the last 20 years, and you there's always been a way out.
Yeah, and I mean, they've had Hell in a Cell matches where the ending like last year, the ending didn't make sense between Braun Strowman and Roman Reigns, where Brock came out and trashed everyone. Yeah, it's like, oh, that sucked. They've had endings in Hell in a Cell matches which may not have been good. I mean, not every Hell in a Cell match is gonna like either A, be good, or B, make any kind of sense. I mean, you have to think 2 Hell in a Cell matches in the last 5 years have pretty much ended with Shane McMahon dying.
Yes. Pretty much.
Well, I don't know how else to say it other than Shane McMahon looking, giving the cross, and just dying, like flopping through a table,
and just flying off the cage through a table.
Yeah, I mean, we've had Hell in a Cell matches, and in a bloody fashion. We have had them at WrestleMania where it's like, oh, that's a neat attraction. Okay, I guess. Oh, cool. Sweet. End of an era. Not really, but end of an era. We've had Hell in a Cell matches with dogs in them, for God's sake.
Oh, God.
Yeah, I said it. Kennel in a cell.
Yep. Oh, Jesus.
No. Jesus wasn't involved that night.
No.
There was no Jesus that night.
There was not.
So where do you think they go with Bray Wyatt? How do you fix this? How do you correct this mistake?
Well, considering after Raw went off the air this past week with the whole Tyson Fury, Braun Strowman pull apart brawl, they had a dark match with Cesaro versus the Miz, I believe, and the Fiend appeared and locked Cesaro in the mandible claw. So I'm not exactly sure where they're going to go with the Fiend, because it had been reported that he hadn't been cleared for action because of concussion or whatever. But I guess he was well enough to hook the mandible claw, or at least make the people happy.
Yeah.
But it's hard to say where they're going to go with him because of the draft. Because you don't know if he's going to remain on Raw, you don't know if he's going to go to SmackDown, you don't know who's going to go where. Because
do you think that we can still get a WrestleMania main event out of this character?
Yes.
Do you think there's potential to still pull a WrestleMania main event out of this character?
There is, because while the whole situation with Hell in the Cell wasn't the greatest, it also didn't really fully hurt the Fiend character itself. Because at the end of the day, like Jason, like Michael Myers, dude still got up.
Yes, he did.
So, and granted, yeah, it's not what the crowd wanted, but guy still got up, and the show ended with him standing and the champion down and out. So, while I'm not in a rush for them to face each other for the title again, I'm like, you can still build him up and give him the title. Because honestly, Bray Wyatt had that whole 1190 or whatever the thing it was, and that's technically Survivor Series.
And it's The Undertaker.
Yep. So, and this is the thing is, if you're going to if you're going to have a WrestleMania match with The Fiend that doesn't involve the Demon King, The Undertaker's your next best shot.
And this could be The Undertaker passing the torch to Bray. They've already had one WrestleMania match in San Francisco, and it was good. You know me, I'm still pulling for that Demon King versus
the Fiend.
The Fiend.
Yeah.
Match at WrestleMania. The entrances would be, orgasmically good. But I will take an Undertaker versus Fiend match just because it would be so cool to see how they pull that off.
Oh, absolutely.
Undertaker being able to have one of those good matches, one last good main event match.
And make that his, especially with the fact that WrestleMania 36 is in Tampa Bay. So you're gonna have, you're like, if it was in Texas, I'd say, okay, retirement match, similar to Flair, Hall of Fame, stuff like that. But it would be, I think this year, if you do Undertaker versus Fiend, it's passing of the torch type deal. Or you pull the Flair thing, but you pull it this year with Undertaker, where he's in the Hall of Fame, and
which I thought we got. Yeah.
Which of course, yeah.
Where, yeah, but I don't think the darkness, the transition of the darkness to this Fiend character who's going to be around a few more years, I'd like to see.
Yeah, that's definitely where I could see that going. And especially because now with how you booked that Hell in a Cell match where Seth Rollins hit curb stomp, super kick, whatever, frog splash, and the Fiend kept kicking out at one, kept getting up. It's not, if you put the title on him at this point, it's like, dude, if he's going to just get up and kick out at one from a move that put Brock Lesnar down, who the hell's going to beat him? Which would run to the Demon King thing, which would run to the Demon King aspect, but with Finn Balor officially moving to NXT, which was confirmed today, he moved his profile to the NXT. WWE moved his profile to the NXT roster page. It highly unlikely, unless things change in the next few months. But we don't know what Heyman and Bischoff have in store.
Knowing those two, they've got, knowing Heyman and his love for these weird characters, they could throw a curveball and have Sting versus Bray Wyatt.
Yeah, that's very true. That's very true. Hell, you can even not as far as I know, Lucha Underground is out, and I really don't know if Vampiro ever really had a relationship or ever. You could always have Vampiro come in for a one-off type deal. Because Vampiro was that dark type of wrestler too. So, but and flipping back to the AEW NXT thing right now, I think AEW is kind of going to win tonight. Because
how are they looking?
Currently right now it's Mox versus Shawn Spears, and Moxley came out with a very awesome hoodie. It was kind of like done in the like NWA format, that black and white sign or whatever, but it had the letters Mox, and it said unscripted violence. It was kind of cool looking. It was kind of cool looking, but NXT's kind of had a few like matches throw away, but AEW, they've pulled out they had a women's tag team match, and now they got Mox versus Spears, and like I've had my channel on AEW pretty much the entire podcast, with gently flipping over to NXT every so often.
But we'll see how the ratings look tomorrow.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. I know there was the Roderick Strong faced somebody for the North American title, and Ciampa made a return and was claiming for Goldie.
So that's gonna be so good.
So yeah, it honestly, I love the fact that Wednesday night has two very good wrestling shows on. So, but Yeah, I don't know where they're going to go with Fiend. Like I said, you have the draft starting Friday on SmackDown, continuing on Monday, and then it's pretty much to see where they go from there.
And Fox, from all accounts, wants stars that are strictly Fox.
Oh yeah, well that's what they said. As soon as the draft is completed on Monday night, it is two separate brands, no more wild card rule. It is SmackDown and Raw.
Which is an opportunity for some great storytelling.
Oh, absolutely. And Kenny Omega is on my screen with a barbed wire bat and a barbed wire broom.
Yeah, I got nothing.
I'm just like, I looked up and I saw Kenny Omega standing there with with barbed wire items, and it was a bat and a broom, and he threw the bat towards Moxley. So this looks entertaining.
Oh, because he's the cleaner. Got it.
Oh,
I just got the joke.
Yeah. That I saw the broom and I'm like, oh, he's the cleaner. Okay, yeah. That's that. Wow. Okay. Well, AEW's got some good storylines going on right now. They really do. So, but to finish up the Mick Foley show, if you can see it, have a nice day tour. Fantastic. I'm sure he's got a different host in all the cities. I know he was Pittsburgh, Syracuse, stuff like that for the first couple of nights. Last night he didn't talk a lot of WWE stuff. He talked a lot of Pittsburgh stuff, training with Dominic Minucci, Shane Douglas, and the beginnings of his career and everything, and the start and the beginnings of how he wrote his book and how the book came to be. Like he talked about how they sat him down with a writer, and the writer was kind of like changing words, and then he contacted the publisher and was like, how about I write this myself? And as Foley said, he would go up in the stands and he wrote on a yellow pad, and he would read it to the guy. He read it to the guys in back, and he's like, X-Pac being one of the guys. And eventually it started making the rounds. And Steve Austin kept asking him for more of the book because Austin was laughing his ass off and being very entertained by it.
Well, I remember one chapter in the book talking about his WCW days where I believe it was Mick Foley and Stone Cold. DDP would ask them to record his matches, and instead they would record the audience or the rafters, and they never did. And they were talking about that in the book, and I'm like, that is some dickhead shit. But then again, I'm also like, all right, that's pretty funny. That's pretty funny. I don't care who you are. That's hilarious.
Yeah. And I love the way that Foley closed the show. He was talking about the Hell in a Cell match with Undertaker, and how after he'd been in the corner or whatever, and he's got his tongue through his lip and whatever, and his tooth and all that. And Terry Funk and all the agents are out there, and he talked about how Terry Funk finally told the story about that match at the Hall of Fame, his Hall of Fame induction, what the Undertaker said. And he's like, the Undertaker looked at Terry Funk and was like, is he alive? Is he dead? Terry came over, made sure Foley was alive, and Funk went over and he's alive, and Undertaker chokeslammed Funk, taking him out of his shoes in the process. And Foley ended the night. The Hell in the Cell match was about 3 men. One man with a broken foot, the Undertaker, chokeslamming another man out of his shoes, while a third man was presumably dead. It was like he was like, The Undertaker had a broken foot that night, and it's the Hell in the Cell match was about 3 men. The Undertaker with a broken foot, chokeslamming Terry Funk out of his shoes to give time for the third man to resuscitate himself, who was presumed dead. So
that is one hell of a way to end the show.
Yes. But that's going to do it for us, as we kind of had a super edition of Turnbuckle Talk Radio. About an hour and a half long. Hope you guys enjoyed everything as we talked over the last week of professional wrestling. So download it, like us, follow us on social media, and keep it locked, as we will be back next week. The Turnbuckle Talk Radio podcast is brought to you by Gear Network and ShopGear.com. We can be listened to via Spotify, iTunes, iHeartRadio, and everywhere else you can get your podcasts. The TTRP introduction was done by Trevor Dugan. The show is hosted by Patrick Gancheski and Daniel Roberts. Post-production of the TTRP is done by Patrick Gancheski and John Cimino. If you'd like to follow us via social media, you can search Turnbuckle Talk Radio Podcast on Facebook. You can follow us at Twitter by using the name Turnbuckle_talk. Or if you have questions or concerns, you can reach us via email at turnbuckletlkradio@gmail.com. We'd like to thank you for listening to the Turnbuckle Talk Radio Podcast, downloading our episodes, following us on social media, and interacting with us.
The preceding presentation has been brought to you by the Gear Network. Hi, ladies and gentlemen. Do you like sports, interactive polls, friendly banter from two guys that probably shouldn't even be on the microphone doing this stuff anyways? Well, if you do, then you're in luck. Us two knuckleheads, Brandon and myself, comprise the Listen In Podcast. That's right, Listen In, the podcast. We're talking sports, we're talking news, we're talking topical things, we're talking all sorts of things, my babies, and you are all invited to listen in right here on the Gear Radio Network.